very warm welcome to you, Jenny. She's in the studio looking very lovely in red. Hi to you.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, that's really lovely. If you can come close to the mic,
Close
that'd be
to the mic.
lovely. Right, okay. Lovely to see you. And let me just jump in with this question. How was your Christmas? Let's start there.
Oh, we had a lovely Christmas. It's always busy. And my birthday's Boxing Day. So we have Christmas, and the birthday, Boxing Day, then New Year.
Oh.
So it's always busy, but fun and lovely and lots of laughing.
Yeah. The laughing bit is really, really good. Okay. And did you actually get much time off during Christmas?
Yeah, I take a good chunk of time off because this is winter. It's time to rest. So I take off what I can and then work like Billy O in January and try and catch up.
Yeah, which is what we're all doing, I think. And it's like, wow, did December actually happen? I know it happened, but it seems, now into January and planning. How is everything then at the Peace Gym? Remind us what that is for people that don't know.
Oh, that's my lovely workshop and my company, but it's only me. And I teach workshops and courses in ways to feel more peaceful inside. So just sort of dealing with our feelings and changing our internal dialogue so that our external life looks and feels better.
And I was just talking earlier about my inspirational quote that I always give a quote each week. And better an oops than what if? What did you think to that?
Yeah, I thought it was lovely. It's like adding yet to sentences. When someone says, I can't swim, we say, I can't swim yet. And it just gives you that lift that there might be a future where there's an oops rather than oh dear and a yet.
And your Peace Gym then, what are people saying to you then? What's it doing for them?
At a very basic level, it allows them to navigate everyday life without believing so much of the quite mad thoughts in our heads. So one of the big things I teach is a talk called Why Now, and looking at how it's our thoughts in our head that take us to the past and the future. Actually, what is wrong with this moment now? Very rarely much. Might be a challenge, but very rarely a horrendous thing right now. And yet we believe these thoughts in our head and they cause so much turmoil and pain within us.
Yeah, and you can sometimes see it in people, but often it's just hidden, isn't it? And the most respectful person, the most tidy-looking person can be in complete trauma mentally.
Yeah, well, because we compare our insides with everybody else's outside. So everybody's got a facade, and we're walking down the street, and you don't realise that there's an internal storm going on. But when I'm in circle with people, my first question is always, why have you booked this particular workshop now? And they go round and you realise how everybody's story is the same. Yeah. And I just say, if you walked past each other in Leamington, would you have guessed everyone had this going on?
No.
It's lonely and we want connection.
Yeah, and we're all human. What I love about what you're saying is that it's just real. And one of the dangers for me is things like social media where you are able to or encouraged to act. Something like Facebook. I know there are lots of different social platforms. Of course there are. I use Facebook every day. But it can become this place that becomes a theatre stage where I'm not who I am and not, just not portraying what's really going off in my head, but a picture will suffice and make it look like I'm on top of the world, best singer in the world, best presenter, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But I'm not saying that's not possible, but the reality is I might just be feeling really down, but I'm not going to let people know.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a wider stage of what's going on personally for everybody anyway. It is that we're all pretending that we're okay. Everyone says fine, thanks. If you came up to everybody and went, how are you? And, well, I'm having a terrible time. And you're only in a coffee shop getting a coffee. Obviously we're all telling this story and putting our big girl faces on and are getting on with it. But yeah, inside all of us is a lack of connection and a lot of turmoil.
Let's talk about Blue Monday. What are your thoughts about Blue Monday? A load of rubbish, or is it true that more people are down today?
I believe it's true, and I think it's true because we have an enormous amount of distraction in December. So one of the things we do around living with difficult feelings, which we all do, is we numb ourselves from them. So one of the ways we numb ourselves is we look forward to stuff and stay busy. So we've had loads to do in December, and suddenly there's this thunk into January where we realise that actually nothing's particularly different and what can we numb ourselves with next? And that's why we tend to be a little bit blue today. But, it's just accepting how we are.
It's good to hear that. And even the fact that you just mentioned it just brings a spotlight, a light bulb moment. But we were just talking off air. Why do we forget about this? Why, I mean, it's not like we haven't been through turmoil before in our lives. No matter what age you are, things happen that upset us or just challenge us. And often, eventually, we realise the route out of it is to get your mind and your head set, your head thinking better. But Jenny, why do we just have to keep reminding ourselves or just forgetting that there is a way out, that these mad thoughts, these pressures, these challenging thoughts don't have to stay with us? Why are we not into a routine of just saying, that's rubbish. I'm not going to think that about myself or anybody else.
In a rather brutal nutshell, because we're lazy. It's like the stuff we know we need to do, we struggle to do because quite often, without getting too deep, in the now moment when we're not thinking, the ego dies. And the ego doesn't want to die. It wants to distract us with a past to feel a victim to and a future to be hopeful towards. And so in this now moment, if we can stop thinking, there's a point where we go, oh, this is boring, and don't give it a chance. But actually, yeah, for most of us, we know what we should be doing and what we would want to do and the result we want, but we're lazy and we don't do it.
What makes us lazy?
I think possibly there's an element of sort of the nature of that, which is that we conserve energy and what have you. But it's much more interesting to live in our heads and believe our thoughts and read Facebook and the bad news. And we're very attracted to bad news because it's what helped us survive. You know, bad news travels fast, so that we know that if, you know, someone's coming to kill us, someone would tell us first. And so we're very addicted and attracted to that whole drama. And we live in a culture that believes in scarcity. We're not enough, we don't have enough, we don't do enough, we're not spectacular enough. And so we're constantly chasing this sense of satisfaction that actually can never be fed. And it's a culture we live in more than anything.
How does that culture develop then? Because, you know, what you're saying is perfectly right. And I'm sure the average person would listen to you and go, totally, I get you. I get it. But walk out the door and I've forgotten it because somebody's hacked me off, you know, and done something, blah, 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 and I'm back into that loop again. So something isn't right with the way that we are trained to even automatically. So it's just a habit.
Oh, I love that.
So
yeah.
come on, how do we get into it being habitual that actually, and it's not that you're not being human, but habitually that you at least have a first point of, you know, that you get to, which is that's not true, that's not true of me, and then you obviously can deal with that afterwards. But what is going on? What's going on with us?
I love that question. This is why my company's called the Peace Gym, is you have to show up for it. Just like you show up for your physical health, if you want to be fit and healthy, you have to show up for the gym and show up for your exercise, and you get stronger as a result. Exactly the same with our inner peace. We have to show up for it, and we don't.
And it's a bit like me deciding I now want to go to the gym. I love it when I go to the gym. I absolutely love it. I am like, I'm their headband and whatever, and I'm just going for it. But getting to the gym, Jenny, I can tell you is the hardest thing. I will talk myself out of it. Every excuse, from period pain, and even though I don't have periods, but it's just, I'll think of anything not to go to the gym. It's cold, it's damp, I haven't got my gym stuff clean and whatever it is.
Yeah. And then if you think that from going to the gym, we actually often have a physical result that we enjoy later on.
Yeah.
Whereas we don't really know what we're heading for when we're trying to set up a meditation practice or a gratitude practice because we haven't experienced it. There's no magazine going, look at me, now I've meditated every day for 20 minutes, because it doesn't change any of the outside. It very simply changes the inside. There's a lovely sort of saying is, what is life like before enlightenment? Chop wood, carry water. What is life like after enlightenment? Chop wood, carry water. That nothing in the outside world is different. Everything on the inside world is different.
All right, so I'm going to leave things hanging there. I'm going to play a track and come back to you and find out some top tips from you. I think there's a lot more to say, and I wish I could be here all evening with you, but let's go to a track and we'll come back. This is Gwen Stefani here on Upbeat, having a lovely conversation with my Monday motivational guest, Jenny Critchlow. We're talking about the fact that today is traditionally known as Blue Monday, actually, a time when you're pretty down after all the Christmas and New Year festivities, that's the word. And we're talking about why we kind of default to this downward spiral. How can we recognise and stop ourselves with this sort of inner turmoil? So, Jenny, thank you for all the amazing answers that you've given so far. We've talked about mental health. What would be your top tips for a good mental health regime this time of year?
First and foremost, always look at what nature's doing. So we are nature, and we forget that. And nature is resting and getting pregnant. So
Pardon?
if you're starting to think about creative new ideas. So winter is about nature resting, and we're just coming into the time of year where seeds start forming, and lambs are in bellies. And for us, it would be not necessarily getting pregnant, but trying to decide a little bit now about what creative things we would like to bring into the next year, and start just allowing the more expansive energy, because we've come through winter solstice, we're now on the expansion up to summer solstice, and so our energy wants to expand too, and start having new ideas and new projects. So it's a really good time to think about that.
I like what you're saying. I mean, obviously, you're a very spiritual person. I'd say that myself. But I think the context of actually starting to birth something is really good and really powerful. And I love what you're just saying there. Because, yes, we're now at the beginning of January. Maybe it isn't about just creating something in January, ticking a box that I've done this, I've done that, but actually growing something and enjoying that growth within you and seeing yourself change during that journey. Because I remember when I was pregnant, I didn't realize how much I was changed, never mind, giving birth and growing this baby. So I came out of it a totally different person, mad, I think. But so I love that picture you gave, and grow with the season. It's a time where, it is a different colour. It's darker out there. In fact, let's talk about that. Some people seasonally this year really struggle with how dark it is.
Yeah, they do. And the most obvious answer there is be outside as much as you can. When you can be outside and it's not dark, minimum 15 minutes, go for a walk every day. Very simple. Get as much light as you possibly can. And we are into more light, so the days are getting longer.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Now, we talked about feeling down. Is it normal, Jenny, do you think, to feel down?
Yes. I think this is where we struggle as humans, especially in the culture we're in, where we think or we believe, or we're being led to believe, there's a future moment where we're all going to feel all right, and that will be absolutely fine. And it's normally when we weigh a certain weight, or we retire, or we win the lottery. But the whole point of our feelings is that no one feeling is more or less value than the other. And the idea is that every feeling not only is valid, but there is space for all of it. This isn't about feeling great all the time. This is about navigating what it means to be human, what it means to seek connection, and what it means to ask of ourselves our greatest glory, which is being absolutely and utterly ourselves, which means, most importantly, allowing ourselves to be vulnerable and opening ourselves up to pain.
How much of this do you think we should be teaching and inputting and training young children? Because, of course, what you're just talking about is a journey of discovery, which some people only find towards either the end of their lives, perhaps, or, the middle of their lives, but certainly, possibly, kind of too late, because the other habits have actually kind of developed. But what about young kids? How do we get this kind of thinking into them as early as possible?
I think, first of all, imperative that it should start from the moment a child is born, is present moment living, as far as I'm concerned. But we're only learning about it as a culture now. To be very present with our children can be tricky. They are getting things into school, but it's very compartmentalised, and we're basically schooled through shame. And shame is the closest feeling vibrationally to death. It's very painful, but most of us were schooled at school through shame, through getting it wrong and being in trouble and not being right, or being glorified by a bit of pay for being right or winning. And culturally, there just needs to be a change there about what we value, that we value enrichment in schools as opposed to achievement, which is a very different thing to do.
Ooh, are you saying that we should get away with things like exams? Because that is a huge pressure point. And my daughter's in the middle of that now at uni.
Yeah, my son too.
They change during this time.
Yeah. Really important years. And, the school systems do know, actually, how it should change. It's just so fundamental that change happens through a generation, which is about 30 years. And each generation comes through that are less resistant to the change. And so this will happen. It's just very slow, and it will be slow.
It's a shame that I might not even see this in my lifetime. It's a pain that it takes so long for it to be adopted and appreciated. But at least, like you say, it's happening. How can we better recognise then our feelings? Because this is really important, and I think at any age, teaching us all how to recognise our feelings, how to anticipate how we're going to feel when we make decisions, particularly bad ones, rather than just reacting when it happens.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Well, first of all, is very simply to notice. And that's part of our problem. What we do as humans is that we are scared of feeling challenging feelings. And so we are taught to numb ourselves. So we numb ourselves in many different ways through screens, eating, food, alcohol, drugs, but also talking, watching the telly, shopping, spending money, gambling, all these things. We will distract ourselves every day, all day from what we're truly feeling. The problem is when we numb ourselves like that, when we numb frustration, when we numb shame, when we numb pain, when we numb vulnerability, we also numb compassion and numb love and love kindness and creativity. You can't numb one feeling and not another. So we live a half life. And a wholehearted life is lived by someone that can be brave and vulnerable with all the challenging feelings so that the more wonderful feelings can be part of their life.
Sounds good to me. Now, very quickly, meditation. You're an advocate for that, aren't you?
Oh, big advocate, yes, absolutely. Mainly because, as I said, in order to notice what's going on inside of us, we have to be quiet. And when new ideas and feelings never get created by the outside world, they are already within us and they arise within us. And in those moments watching the arising, we can be friends with our feelings, greet the challenging ones as little tiny birds and care for them and have compassion for them because they need us and they need our attention. And then they move and change. But if we're numbing, nothing moves and changes. So yeah, meditation absolutely all the way.
Time to be on your own, time to just abandon some of the feelings that have been dominating your day, that evening, wherever. So I love that. Brilliant stuff. So what are your plans then, my friend, for and your hopes and dreams for 2020? Will you reveal that to me here at
big
BBC?
Reveal.
You know you are.
No one big hope and plan, but 2022, the beginning of 2022, I made it my year of daring greatly. So I had to do things that scared me, that I wanted to do, that also grew me. So I did a course in improv comedy. I started a master's, which I failed at, and dealing with that failure was a really wonderful thing to acknowledge and not go into shame. I applied for MasterChef, got almost to the end. I did loads
No
of things.
way.
Yeah, it was awesome. So this year, I'm just doing more of the same. So what scares me, what doesn't. So I've signed up for a comedy writing course. I am doing a fish filleting course because
what, love?
a fish filleting course because I don't know how to deal with fish. So
Do you
I thought
like
I'd better
fish?
do that. Oh yeah, but I thought it'd scare me a bit. I also signed up for a menopause cookery course. So that's going to be happening for me, I think, in the next 4 or 5 years. So I thought, well, that would be quite interesting and facing the next stage of life. Trying to think what else I'm doing. I think that's about. Oh, I'm doing a course in talking better for radio, so I can do these more better for you.
Oh,
so yeah, that's the next.
I'm
one.
not enjoying it myself. Love.
You did rather a good job.
Lovely. Oh, that's amazing.
I know.
I love all that. I wish I could talk to you more about all that, especially the fish one. Amazing. I can help you with the menopausal one, absolutely. But anyway, really good to talk to you. Just please leave us then with 2 or 3 tips then for just round this off for people who are listening and thinking, okay, I've got it. Where do I start?
Where do you start? Well, just a Google will help you start. My top tips are: be compassionate and caring to yourself first and foremost. You, as much as anyone, deserves your love and compassion. Show up for yourself. So just like you show up for the gym, show up for one thing that you've decided to learn and do it wholeheartedly. And get enough rest.
Brilliantly said. Fantastic. Jenny, a joy. I've learned so much, been reminded of a lot as well. It's been lovely to talk to you. So listen, go forth and keep blessing and keep motivating people with your lovely tips. Amazing stuff as well. And come back and see us again. I'm sure you will. But it's
Thank
been
you.
lovely. Lovely having you on the show. Amazing. Cool. Was she good? Oh, Tom Gregory now with Forget Somebody here on BBC CWR.